Something cool has happened today. We got the Ascendancy classes revealed to us. Now, this is fresh off the press, as it were, and you can find this link in the description below. But basically, these are all the Ascendancy classes for the 6 classes that are coming to Path of Exile 2. We'll go through them very quickly on a super high level because I don't really have a good frame of reference of how they're going to play into the game. Right now, we don't have the entire passive tree, all the skill gems, how all that really works together with your selected weapon specializations and what have you. So a lot of this is just going to come down to the important deciding factor for choosing your character. There's tons of stuff on the internet right now about, oh, what's the best, what's the worst, what looks good, what looks doesn't. Who gives a shit? Play exactly how you want. And I am going to echo this throughout the next video I put out, which goes out in about 8 hours from now. But basically, when it comes to selecting your first character for Path of Exile, play how you want because no one knows how anything's really work. So what you should do, though, to determine which character is look at these ascendancies. This is the only thing that really matters when choosing your character. It's your ascendancy and where you start on the passive tree. Everything else, weapon specialization, skill gems, support gems, it really just kind of comes down to choosing whichever ones you want. I guess another thing when it comes to character is, do you like how they cosmetically look? So if you want to play, say, a Stormweaver with a lot of storm magic or what have you, then you probably want to get this Ascendancy on Sorceress and build it however you want. Your Ascendancies are really, truly what matters. You can't see much here, but don't worry. I've got them all. You can open them in a new tab, and you'll be able to see them in much better light. But that's kind of the too long didn't watch this entire video. We're just going to be going over these ascendancies. And if you want to look at the specific ones that make the most sense for you and what your builds are probably going to be, you can just find the link to this below. Go ahead and jump into those. No reason to watch the rest. Before you head out, though, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe. Each one of those things does help me out in a way. Also, do keep in mind that I will be doing live streams of Path of Exile 2 on my Twitch. You can find a link below. I'll be doing giveaways of the early access keys that I got extra ones. I'll be giving giveaways of those tomorrow and on launch, as well as the Twitch drops that will be going live as well. So make sure you check those out on the 6th. Let's get started here on all the Ascendancy classes revealed to us in Path of Exile 2. Jumping into all of these bad boys, we have the Chronomancer here, which is going to be the one for the Sorceress. But when I said Chronomancer, I meant Stormweaver. And just to kind of quickly go through these, we've got Scouring Winds, exposure you inflict lowers the effective resistance by an additional %. Tempest Caller grants skill Elemental Storm, which we can see right here. Creates a stationary fire, cold, or lightning storm at a target location for a duration based on the highest elemental damage type for the hit that triggered the storm. Trigger elemental storms on critical hit with spells. So that's kind of a cool little ability there, right? So it kind of wombo combos that together with those crit hits to get you that elemental storm capability. Does the highest elemental damage type for the hit that triggered the storm. Hits which do not deal elemental damage will not. Rain Dancer Elemental Storm has 150% more cooldown and recovery rate, and typically a lot of these will have some sort of ability that they then increase upon, or a mechanic that they work with. Like, for example, I think it's the Titan that has all the stun mechanic. So a lot of these are going to have our work hand in hand. So that's why I'm saying, like, Ascendancy is pretty important to how you're going to want to progress through your character. Heavy Snows, targets can be affected by 2 of your chills at the same time. Your chills can reduce action speed up to a maximum of 35%, 25% less magnitude of chill you inflict. Vapor of Winter, all damage from hits contributes to chill magnitude. Strike twice, targets can be affected by 2 of your shocks at the same time, 50% shock duration. Vapor of Storms, all damage from hits contribute to shock chance. Constant Gale, you have Arcane Surge, and Arcane Surge grants you 10% more cast speed and 20% more rate. Force of Will has 1% increase effective Arcane Surge on your max on you per 15%, or on you per 15 max mana. And then Heart of the Storm, 40% of electrical damage recouped as energy. So what you want to look at here is the fact that you get 8 total points, I believe. 2 in Act 2-ish, I think it is. 2 in Act 2 of Cruel, and then 2 more in the Ascended Trials from the, which we'll go through in the next video coming out here in a couple hours. So you pretty much kind of decide, like, you know, you've got these big nodes here. What are the ones I really want to focus on? And how do I get to those? What point investment is it going to cost me? How am I going to jump into them as fast as possible? And considering that we've got a total of what, 10 nodes here, well, 10 total abilities from the overall amounts of got. So your investment in them is going to depend upon what direction you want to take with this character, right? And if we look over here to the Chronomancer, now and again, skills have a 33% chance to consume a cooldown when used. Grants skill time snap, a manipulates time, resetting the cooldowns of your other skills. Time freeze releases a large wave that stops time for all affected enemies for a duration. During lower, the more times the enemy has had time stopped for them. Footprints in the sand, temporal rift here, passively leaves after images of your recent past. Cast a spell to return to the old after image, teleporting to that location, and resetting your life, mana, and energy. There's another game that's got that, and I think it's in Last Epoch, and I can't remember if it is or not. I think it's the Void Knight that's got it, or maybe that's I think it's called Temporal Rift or Temporal something in the other game. But go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. Quicksand Hourglass, every 12 seconds, gain 50% more cast speed for 4 seconds. Enemies in your presence are slowed by 20%, and 30% of damage taken recouped as life and effects instead for every 4 seconds. So you can see a hard juxtaposition between these two Ascendancy classes for Sorceress. You've got a character that really relies more on manipulating cooldowns, cast speed, and the speed of doing things versus a character that tries to increase elemental damage type, key off of critical hits with that storm capability, and really doing a lot of destructive damage through there. So it really kind of comes down to how you intend on playing Sorceress and Path of Exile 2. And just to kind of go through these a little bit quicker, I don't want this to be a 5 million minute movie video. We get with this one, I believe this is Titan here. Yeah, Titan. The Titan. I get this one confused between this and the Warbringer. The Titan is definitely more about doing damage, either single target or otherwise, right? You're doing your slam effects, you're ancestrally boosted. You have all of these additional effects that are coming in. Ancestral boost, your ancestrally boosted skill has a 20% more damage in area of effect. You're taking advantage of doing a lot more damage with the Titan. That's the big focus of this character. You do get some survivability in Stone Skin, which is pretty nice here, but you're working on slam, you're looking on doing crushing blows, stunning things, and there's a lot of stuff with the warrior that keys off of stun. So the difference, of course, between stun and heavy stun, and doing stuff like that with like the Hammer of the Gods and Bone Shatter and all the other abilities that warrior has access to. I know this looks like, oh, 40% more damage against heavy stun enemies. There's more stuff in the warrior's repertoire that this is really good. And on top of that too, we have the Warbringer, which is definitely more of a utility style of character. In my Death Knight build that I'm planning for Path of Exile 2, it's definitely going to be more advantageous if I use a Templar, but we can't play Templar just yet. So my thought is to use a Warrior Warbringer and use some of the minion capabilities, because the Warbringer has a lot of cool stuff. Yeah, it breaks armor, and you can break armor down below 0, all that kind of stuff. But Encase in Jade consumes all stacks of Jade to grant a buff for a duration that absorbs all damage from hits to a max based on the amount of Jade consumed. Grant skill Ancestral Spirits. Each of your totems will summon an Ancestral Spirit minion. So you kind of lean into a lot of directions with minion builds with this, and it's pretty fun with that build I have in mind. But also there's way more utility off of those totems. 20% of damage from hits is taken from your nearest totem's life before you. Grants you a gain 40% base chance to block from equipped shield. Another characteristic with shield down here. Corpses in your presence explode when you Warcry, dealing 25% of their life as damage. And Warcries, you now get their cooldowns ignored. So it is definitely more of a utility build for a warrior, focusing on those totems, focusing on those capabilities with Warcry, but also having a lot of fun in repertoire. For the Ranger, we have both the Pathfinder and the Deadeye. The Deadeye here really relies on frenzy charges for one of its branches, and really working on a lot of projectile stuff, right? Like endless munitions skills fire an additional projectile. Here, you apply an additional mark 2, and then these two kind of go together as well. Gathering Winds gain Tailwind on skill use, lose all Tailwind when hit, and 3% less damage taken per Tailwind. Tailwind's pretty cool here. It's a stacking buff which grants a percentage of increased movement speed, 3% increased skill speed, and 15% increased evasion rating per stack for 10 seconds, refreshing whenever you gain another stack, max 10 stacks. So it's a 10% increase to your movement speed, but a 30% increase to your skill speed, and 150% increase to, I like math, 150% increase to your evasion. but it's mainly just kind of working off of using your bow and arrow, doing more projectile, well, focusing on projectile, specifically projectile. But of course, no accuracy penalty at a distance, and frenzy charges, making those frenzy charges, rather than gaining a single stack of them, you get max number, and benefits from consuming frenzy charges for your skills have 50% should be doubled. If you don't know what all this means, don't worry, you're not alone. I don't know what all of it means. I know what most of it means, but my point here is I'm explaining these things, and it gives you an idea of the direction of these characters, right? You're going to understand what frenzy charges are on the 6, unless you already do. By and large, it's a simple like resource gen expenditure system. You can get an idea of what the projectiles mean and what the tailwinds mean, but not knowing all this isn't going to kill you. Don't worry about it. You're going to figure it all out. You're going to have plenty of time to decide when you jump into the game on the 6 and start playing through it. This just gives you an idea of the direction you want to take with the character. Do you want to use a lot of the bow and arrow stuff, or do you want to use a lot of the kind of poison mechanics and the grenade mechanics and the flask mechanics of the ranger? Well, then this is the one that's going to make sense for you, right? 50% more flask charges gained. Life flask effects are not removed when unreserved life is filled. Life effects do not queue. I don't overly know what the first part of that means, and so don't worry. Look more at the overall theme of these to get a sense if you're brand new to this genre or this game. The most damaging poison on enemies you kill is spread to other enemies within one. That's pretty sick. 1.5 meters. Double the number of poisons you can inflict on enemies, 35% less poison duration though. And then you've got all of the different concoctions you can go down. Poison is fulminating for lightning damage, shattering for cold, explosive for fire, bleeding for physical damage, to give you a certain damage type certain damage spice in directions for your build. Getting just 5 outright more passive skill points, that's equivalent to getting 5 more levels. That's very nice right there. Relentless Pursuit, your speed is unaffected by slows, and 30% less movement when using skill while moving. So this is your ranger, and it gives you the different directions and flavor for what skills you want to focus on with the character. Now for our witch, we have the Blood Mage and Infernalist. Stellar thing, I think. Now the Blood Mage is going to focus on a lot of critical hit damage, or crit damage in general. It's keying off of that. Crit damage bonus, crit hit chance, and as a little bit of energy shield spice in here, and it's focused a little bit on curses. The biggest thing though is Sanguimancy, this thing at the very top here. So grants skill life remnant. Skills gain a base life cost equal to base mana cost. So drinks the blood of your enemies to restore life. While active, enemies you kill have a chance to spawn a life remnant, and critically hitting a target spawns a life remnant every few seconds. Picking up a life remnant grants you life, which can overflow max life. That's the big focus here, right? You're leeching life here whenever you do spell damage. Your curses have infinite duration. You gain 10% of damage as extra physical damage. Elemental damage also contributes to bleeding magnitude. Or Spike increases your critical damage by a bonus of, 1% increased crit damage bonus per 40 life. You want that overflow up here, and all sorts of great ways to just kind of keep your life going. This is really going to help out. This is going to make it so that your crit damage bonus is through the roof. Your base critical hit chance for spells is just a flat increase of 50%. 25% of life lost from hits is prevented, and then that much life is lost over 4 seconds instead. So you're a little bit tankier here. Well, I mean, a lot bit tankier, because you also have an energy shield from equipped body armor from max life. So you have a lot of ways to tank things, quote unquote tank things. You're very stocky. You're very survivable as the Blood Mage. But also we have the Infernalist, and the Infernalist has a lot of really awesome capabilities. In fact, I think of everything we've taken a look at thus far with the Ascendancies, this one is very drastic. Cold, lightning, and physical damage is now taken as fire, and chaos damage, respectively. You have your life reserved. Reserves 25% of life, 25% of life, and 25% of life for +1 max mana per 6 max life, 1 max spirit per 25 max life. Remember, spirit's a resource which you use to summon up things. And then 1 max energy per 8 max life. So your energy shield, sorry. You get an energy shield, you're getting more mana, you're getting more spirit. You also get a demon form, which is pretty crazy. You know, you're going to shapeshift into the succubus that we've seen in a lot of the preview imagery. You gain demon flame every second you remain in demon form, causing your life to be lost at an increasing rate. Then you can master this and get but once you jump down to level or to 1 life, you leave demon form. So revert to human form if you reach 1 life, use a skill that isn't a spell, or reactivate this. Any one of those that will do that will bring you back to your human form. And you get this really crazy one here called Pyromantic Pact. So if changing into a demon wasn't enough, this is wild. So max mana is replaced by max Infernal Flame. Gain Infernal Flame instead of spending mana for skill costs. Take max life and energy shield as fire damage when Infernal Flame reaches max. Lose all Infernal Flame on reaching max Infernal. 10% of Infernal Flame lost per second if none was gained in the past 2 seconds. And you can get benefits here. So while you're on low, all damage from you and your allies in your presence contributes to ignite chance and magnitude. And then seething, if you're on high Infernal Flame, which I originally read earlier, if you're high on Infernal Flames, and I was like, what's wrong with this game? You and allies in your presence gain 20% of damage as fire damage. So you can see how being at either a high or a low point in this can really change how your build works around. Loyal Hellhound here gives you the ability to summon up a Hellhound. Goading Immolation here, become ignited when you deal a critical hit, dealing 50% of your life and energy shield as fire damage per second, and 30% more damage, crit damage bonus. Wow. See how this is a very drastic change to the Witch, but one that's going to be very cool and one I think a lot of people are going to jump into. Now for the Mercenary, we have some interesting tendencies as well. The Gemling Legionnaire focuses on gems, support gems, skill gems, all gems, leveling them up, as you can here, increasing their quality, reducing the cost of skills. Skill gems have 30% more attribute requirements, though, as a result, but grants 3 additional skill slots. That's huge. That is absolutely huge. You go from 9 up to 12, if I'm reading that properly. You can use 2 copies of the same support gem in different skills, which is previously barred. Also, you get max resistances here for 4 blue, red, and green for cold, fire, and lightning, respectively. So your character focuses on manipulating or using gems to help benefit the character, right? Attribute requirements of gems can be satisfied by your highest attribute, which is absolutely bonkers. Inherent bonuses from intelligence, strength, and dexterity are doubled as well. So the Gemling Legionnaire focuses on using those gems to the best of ability, adding more skills to the character. It's not a complex one, right? Like we took a look at the Infernalist, and there's a lot going on there. Oh, there's this happening there, and this happening there. But this is something that really kind of helps you push the boundaries of your build by simply adding more to it. Now, the other one is the Witch Hunter here. And this one is pretty wild because it really relies on 2 different strikes, Culling Strike and Decimating Strike. Culling Strike is basically an auto gib for things under a certain health. Culling Strike kills normal enemies if their life is at 30% or below, whereas like Decimating Strike will just do an additional or a initial huge chunk of damage if something has full life, between 5 and 30% before its own damage is factored in. So it's a pretty cool way to add a lot of damage into things. You get Witchbane, which reduces the concentration of stuff. Concentration here is basically enemies have max concentration equal to 40% of their max life, and you reducing that concentration reduces their cooldown recovery rate. So it's kind of a cool way to basically affect things around you, try and reduce the rate in which they're doing things. Deal up to 30% more damage to enemies based on their missing concentration, which keys off of Witchbane, of course. Then Obsessive Rituals grants skill Sorcery Ward, passively manifests a protective barrier which takes elemental damage from hits for you until depleted. The barrier instantly recharges to its full value a short time after it stops taking damage or is depleted, which is really cool here. 50% less armor and evasion rating as a result, and 10% of the enemies you kill to explode, dealing dealing 100% of their max life as physical damage. Chances doubled against undead and demons, so they take a 20% chance to explode, which is really cool. Also, Ceremonial Ablution. 50% increased effective Sorcery Ward. Sorcery Ward recovers 50% faster. Now, the coolest thing here is Weapon Master at the top. 20 passive skill points become weapon set skill points. So we know that you get roughly 120 skill points in the game. We know that your weapon set specialization gives you 20 each weapon set. So number 1 or number 2. I think that this is going to be one of the things that people are really going to get confused by, because it was confusing for me. I don't know if this means that rather than having 120, which is what our innate passives are, plus the 20 you have in a weapon set, Does that now mean, okay, you have 100 passive skills and 40 for each weapon set, 20 from the weapon specialization, and 20 from this ability? So I think this thing is going to add a lot of power into the build for the mercenary, especially of course for the witch hunter here, right? Because you're getting 20 points that are flexible with the weapon you're using. Maybe I'm using a crossbow that does X damage or a crossbow that does Y damage, and now I've got 20 extra points to flex those around every time I swap the weapon, or swapping to whatever weapon set I'm swapping to, right? Doesn't need to be a crossbow. I'm just using that as an example here. So I think that this thing is going to be really crazy to see how it comes online for. Last but definitely not least is the monk. So for the monk, we have the invoker, which focuses on elemental damage as well as evasion and energy. It's using that spirit to give you a lot of that action. Gain 1 spirit for every 6 energy shield and equipped body armor. Gain 1 spirit for every 15 evasion rating. Cannot gain spirit from equipment. Evasion rating also grants physical damage reduction, 40% less evasion rating, and also the skill meditate here, which helps you recharge your energy shield, and it also helps you overcharge it. Doubles it to a normal. You can overcharge your energy shield up to double its normal max, which is really cool here. Also, too, it gets even crazier, right? Go into more lightning damage here, some more freezing damage. Unbound Avatar, which gain Unbound Fury by inflicting element hits on enemies. Once you max Unbound Fury, consume it to become unbound for a duration, vastly augmenting OS. Some meta skills grant 35% more energy. Crit hits ignore non-negative enemy monster elemental resistance, and eventually aggression here creates a fiery explosion, an arcing bolt of lightning, or an icy wave of projectiles. Chance for an explosion is proportional to your strength, for a bolt proportional to your dexterity, and for a wave proportional to your intelligence. You build into the attribute that makes sense for the character you're building, the focus elementally that you want to do. And on the other end of the spectrum, we have the something of Cholula, which I keep wanting to say Cholula. It is the Acolyte of Cholula. And this is basically your Dark Monk, right? Mana Leech is instant, and now Mana Leech recovers your energy shield. But things get crazier here. A lot of chaos resistance and chaos resistance double, so on and so forth. But this is the thing, reality rending. 23% chance to gain 25% of damage with hits as extra chaos damage, which scales to 7% chance to gain 100% of chaos damage. Crazy, because when we get into the breach, we now look at Flames of Cholula, which give us red flames, give us life, blue flames give us mana, and then purple flames give us a stacking chaos damage buff. And once we get lucid dreaming, it doubles all this. So it doubles the duration and it doubles the effect. So 7 to 14. And this damage buff is a stacking buff. The 14% damage for 5 seconds, up to 10 seconds with that lucid dreaming, and stacking 10 times. So I don't know if that also means that I think that just still stacks 10 times. I don't think it stacks to 20. Stacked in duration. But really awesome, because that just means you're going to be doing tons of darkness damage here, or chaos damage, sorry. Embrace the darkness is what I was looking at. So now you lose your spirit, which everyone has, of course, right? There's lots of things that affect in the game. But now you get darkness. So removes all spirit, base max damage or darkness is 100 for each life or energy shield lost to damage. Reserve 1 darkness instead if possible. Darkness reservation lasts for 10 seconds, plus 5 max darkness per level. Gain 1% of damage as extra chaos damage per 20 unreserved darkness. So you're reserving that is crucial to giving you that damage bonus, chaos damage, and 50% reduced darkness reservation duration as well. So no longer 50% darkness. Overall, I think this is going to be a really awesome monk that we're going to play it out in Path of Exile. So go ahead and let me know in the comment section below which ascendancies you're really stoked for. Has this changed which class you're going to play come the 6th? Or has this given you a better focus on which class you really focus on come the 6th? Let me know below. What are you going to play? Which ascendancy and what kind of build are you going to be making in Path of Exile when it goes live? As always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one.